So near these hypersomnoliths, Sherlock's quarters, out in space, and there are these surrounding things like these scarabs and reflection bolts and hyper reflective surfaces for reflecting. And I've never considered that you don't know the stars with the stats, and you look down the code and all these 7 years of Leavenworth patterns and looking up and discovering by looking down. That's crazy. So the pawns just to look at the reflection of the stars in the Marmont and the Schaffindir. And the way that was shown, the birthmarks on their forehead, they were immediately like, oh, 2 boards up, and the route 2, and the lifetime of Sinertia, which is, if you had a lifetime of that, that would be a shaman, and saving too many lives, born to royal in the Inquisition. And the Ink history bloodlines, and the study of what we are. And that is significant, because it felt to me immediately like a replica of a Toad White. And you know the birth of the girth. Entry at the gate, and when you insert, as a musician, you are a singer in the acoustics that are set up for understanding and really living the experience, twisting and turning at every corner. It works, and it makes sense to you, construct. And it left a period piece, a very lasting feeling of the yawn response in the here, and the other one in the there. It really restores the conflict, and I don't focus on the ritualistic reaching and teaching and teaching. A lot of people built this, and they knew, much like the Great Pyramids that were laid, and the shade of the Orion's belt. What's going on there matters. It shifts your focus, and you think about how wonderful it could be. How did these people know about this without inventing the wheel? They worked really hard texting over, and how the heck could they do it physically? They could kind of know 80,000 slayers in a pyramid just a few days after the construction of that temple and that tempo. I don't think it was a gurn. It was outright fit tracts with a supportive motherhoon, like, you're the best. You're the very best. You don't worry about head golfing. And the same thing, the Native Americans and the settlers that were imposing their lifestyle. And the people that experienced the American lifestyle, they wanted to stay in it forever. Because they omitted some of the things that the European culture was bringing. And it seems like a very distinct possibility that the European perspective was bizarro and all that. It was a 12 turnaround cookie store, fell styles. In a matter of hours, the horses were out. And they were looking for gold everywhere. And of course, there's this belief that they will cross the water with a Peter Pad, the ship Dirty Asshole, that factually was written across the boat. And I think about this perspective, the baubles, with sicko nice, and I'm having enough of this. Let's drill the holes, hang the hammocks, bring out the quartets, and play the music. Previously, they were incapable of integrating the Spidey. It's my little Spidey spooty in focus. And Gary was impossible for them too, Man Whiting Beast. And why in the being on a Bledford crown lit fantasy. I imagine their relief when it comes to the discourse about the armor. And the knight's so cool, so easy. And at first they must have thought that they could do it with some goodwill. As quickly as that sight. Too primitive, and we would take over. With goodwill. They perhaps enlighten and inspire more or less in a way of per capita, per second, more Buddha ways to take away the lines and to Danewar. And back then it was Hanzo. Gregor's larger percent of people that are larger than life personalities they're with 150 divided by 350. And then you land on a boat. Hyperactive. Maybe you're like, we're gonna take something and squeeze the juices out of these. And they will be nice. And we're gonna fly to Neverland with the silent gap. That's bizarre. That's the history of mankind. Men showing up in boats, hugging everyone, and selfie sticks. Getting the size and drawing in the imaginary fly on the wall spirits. Just to be there. And to see what it's like when these people move every encountered rock, boulder, and climb. Which crazy is that is why Mexico speaks Spanish. People don't get that in their head. Like, people go, except for Brazil, Portuguese. And we don't get that in our heads in the Mexican speaking Spanish, which is not a war zone. It's a freck head around in speaking Spanish. And it makes no hecking sense for poker by the Spanish. Whoa. In a long span. No spasm. My music teacher would drill this into my head